Welcome to the Disruptive Social Care Podcast with social care provocateur and social media queen Shirley Ayres. I'm myself, Stuart Arnott, founder of Mindings, a service dedicated to bringing social media to the disconnected. In this show, we aim to spread the word about what's going on in the world of disruptive social care, amplify the voices of people with great ideas that few people ever hear about, help our communities connect and collaborate, and interview thought leaders across the sector. Well, Shirley, hello. Show number 18 and over 5,000 listens have viewed the podcast so far.
Impressive numbers and very exciting. And exciting news that this edition of the Disruptive Social Care Podcast has been crowdfunded. And a big thank you to all of our sponsors who will be name checked at the end.
Absolutely, and we'll put logos and stuff up as well. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Because, of course, digital technology and social networks provide some of the most powerful tools available today for building a sense of belonging, support and sharing. And what is interesting to see is how people's social networks are increasingly important channels of learning, trust and influence. And of course, they are without geographical boundaries. So, I'm aware the podcast is watched by people all over the world. And I realise also, since it's a while since we've done a podcast, is how much I use them as my online Rolodex and a good reminder of how much innovation is taking place in the sector. And I'll be honest, I'm sad that we have not received more support from the many care organisations who have a remit to promote innovation and new ways of thinking across the sector. Because digital technology is a real force for improving services, and we have to make better information available to help people make real choices about their care and support needs. And we're aware formal and informal care is provided every day for children, young people and adults by literally millions of people. And so we need to be thinking about how we use technology to help individuals and communities make connections.
Yeah, well, I know that you and I have put a huge amount of work into this podcast over the last year and totally funded it ourselves. We're talking thousands of pounds plus weeks of work. And I do know that a lot of people are getting great value from what we're doing. I mean, people like Richard Humphreys from Senior Fellow from the King's Fund, Paul Hodgkin, Chief Executive Patient Opinion, who were on the show saying that what we do is important. So I certainly would like to see some more support. And if we get more support, then we'll continue doing this.
Absolutely.
And I do think that what we're doing is what is missing in social care, communication.
Yep.
There's rarely a meeting goes by these days and I'm in something and I don't hear someone pitching an idea that already exists, but they just don't know it exists. And I've got a sore head from face palming, hearing people wanting to build a new directory or a new forum or a new gizmo from scratch, reinventing the wheel when they're already out there. I mean, I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with a local authority and they wanted to build a community meal service. And I'm sitting there saying, you haven't heard of Casserole Club then? And they hadn't. But even worse is when I'm called in as a consultant, really, I've rarely been offered a fee. I'm called in as a consultant because I'm a thought leader on a project, but they've already got funding from, the usual suspects, from TSB, from Nesta Design Council, and it's almost identical to one that they've already funded, and it drives me to distraction. Maybe someone needs to write a handy pocket-sized guide to innovative digital services in adult social care.
Funny you should mention that, Stu. More later.
So, Shirley, what do we have on the agenda this week?
Pretty full. It's actually been quite hard to decide, what we should be including because so much has been happening over the last few months. And so we're looking at the publication of my Nominate Trust provocation paper, Can Online Innovations Enhance Social Care? The launch of the Click Guide to Digital Technology for Adult Social Care.
Is that pocket-sized?
Handbag-sized. Yes. I Care, 2 words that can change the world. NHS reorganisation and the Francis Report on loneliness and social isolation. NHS Employers Guide to HR and social media in the NHS, supporting practitioners to make sense of social media and mental health practice. I'm the Boss of Me. Formalised Informality, an action plan to spread proven health innovations. Community how-to and at Run a Club. And the living map of innovators that have been developed by Nesta. digital inclusion, behind the headlines, how we address the gap which exists between what is known from research and what is done to apply it, and hashtag wonkcoms and a masterclass in communications.
Can't wait to hear about wonkcoms. Well, let's crack on. Full agenda.
Delighted that my paper, Can Online Innovations Enhance Social Care, has attracted considerable interest, because it actually is so important to focus on the fact that our ageing population offers so many assets to the community, which include wisdom, experience, very many different perspectives, and a wide range of skills and knowledge. It's about and having the technology that enables people to continue functioning independently is so important.
So important. Person-centred care.
Absolutely. And following on from the Nominate Trust paper, I've been commissioned to write a series of posts, and my most recent one was in how online personal support networks can promote more integrated care, which explores new ways of supporting people to live more independently in their communities. And did you know there's about 12 personal support networks?
I didn't know there was 12. Didn't surprise me, sir.
More on the way. As you say, I think there is a debate about duplication and about, innovations adding value rather than just duplicating what's already there. A fascinating debate. And I think part of helping people avoid duplication is the reason why I wrote the Click Guide to Digital Technology for Care, because it really does. It brings together all of the fantastic technology resources that are available today in a single place. And we actually list more than 100 resources, which of course include Casserole Club and Mindings.
Okay, yes, now, I downloaded it. I've got it on my iPad, so I got the download version.
Well, of course, there are two versions. It's available as an ebook and it's available as a printed book. So if you want to inspire your staff to think differently, then I suggest you get them a copy of the Click Guide to Digital Technology.
I think it was quite inexpensive also.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Bargain.
You may have seen I Care, and really the two words that can change the world. A video narrated by Stephen Fry, which is aiming to show that Britain cares about social care. Really, really moving video. Well done. Definitely we need more of that. NHS reorganisation on the 1st of April has led to a raft of new organisations. Now, Stu, do you know the difference between Healthwatch, Health and Wellbeing Boards and NHS England?
No, I don't actually. The very same as I didn't know the difference between NHS Direct and about 3 or 4 others that were out there.
Well, I recommend following at Clark Mike and subscribing to the Telecare Learning and Improvement Network monthly e-newsletter. This will keep you up to date with all the changes.
Absolutely. Clark Mike's very much worth following. He's a mine of information.
Absolutely, yes. So, our hot tip, the first of many. Obviously, we've had the publication of the Francis Report into the appalling failings in Mid Staffordshire Hospital, and of course nearly 300 recommendations. I mean, where do you start with 300 recommendations? But what I'd really, really like to see is that every health and care chief executive officer states one action they've taken to improve care post-Francis. We can't afford for the Francis Report just to be a talking shop.
Yes.
And I'd like to mention a powerful and very moving post from at Mellow Johnny about loneliness. One of the hardest things for doctors and patients to talk about. And it's a really useful post because it also includes a lot of useful facts and resources.
Yeah, I've got it here, actually. There's this one here. It starts off with a quote from Mother Teresa. "The biggest today is not leprosy or tuberculosis, but rather the feeling of being unwanted, uncared for, and deserted by everybody."
Absolutely.
It's a great post.
Yes.
Mellow Johnny's actually is a great person to follow, as well as some very touching personal posts that he does. He's a great resource. I've got, even just in the last few days, he's pointing me in the direction, because obviously mindings, loneliness is very much my passion. A great paper, Loneliness in Older Persons, a predictor of functional decline and death, published by the American Medical Association, and a nice resource by Age UK that I'd missed called Loneliness and Isolation, an evidence review. So thank you to Johnny, personally, actually, for putting these resources my way.
And he's been working with Mark 1 in 4 on
I'm
a
big
programme.
fan of Mark 1 and 4.
Well, so, interesting connections that are made.
Actually, I seem to remember that Johnny was one of Mark 1 and 4's Follow Fridays when he was on the show.
I think that might have been so, yes. And delighted to see that NHS employers have made their HR and social media in the NHS guide available as an ebook. I've been having a little campaign. I'm slightly concerned about all the organisations that are still only providing their reports as PDFs. I think it's very unuser-friendly and there is no reason not to provide it as an ebook. But, I mean, probably as I was explaining to someone today, if I don't ask the question, is your report available as an ebook, it's probably because I don't think you've got a very big audience for it. And an excellent new guide to support practitioners to make sense of social media in mental health practice from Victoria Betton, at Victoria Betton, who's Deputy Director of Strategy and Partnership at Leeds and York NHS Foundation Trust, and Victoria Tomlinson at Northern Lights PR, highly recommended. And a mention for a very insightful interview between at Claire O.T. and Mark 1 in 4, which explores mental health and self-employment. Definitely worth a read.
Great interview.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Well done, two of you. I'm the boss of me. And highly recommended. A paper published in 2008 by Dr Jonathan Lomas, which is called Formalised Informality, an action plan to spread proven health innovations, with a strong recommendation to join up existing hubs of innovation and improvement activity at local and regional levels. And I think this, for me, is one of the really critical factors we have got to think about. There is so much written about innovation, implementing innovation, etc., etc. The problem is, how do we move from thinking to doing? And this is, interestingly published in 2008 and as relevant today. And a big thank you, actually, to Annie Coops for highlighting that paper to me. Now, I've also been looking at online resources to support communities, and I'd recommend the very good at Community How To, which helps people in their communities do more using digital tools. And it's fascinating to see the growing collection of tools that are available, which are shared, rated and discussed, which cover everything from project management to assessing outcomes and impact. And the other one that I found out last week was at Runner Club. And I like this because it's an easy-to-use online toolkit to help any community run any kind of club, whether it's a sports, youth, health, faith, residence, toddler, music or arts club, for any age and in any community. Because that's often the thing that, especially, for example, stops young people. God, there's so many hoops to go for.
Yeah.
And this provides it all in one easy place. So I'm really excited about that.
Great resource.
And I would like to highlight the Living Map of Ageing Innovators from at Nesta UK, which provides a guide to some of the most exciting things that are happening in the world of ageing. Now has 110 examples. I'm assuming that Mindings is on there. Are you included? Have you put yourselves on there?
It is not only there. I had a very interesting afternoon once with a Nesta researcher up in Cambridge who asked me to be a contributor, and I spent about an hour giving her some background and some tips and some thoughts. So yes, I am on there.
Good. Well, I think it's a great resource, and I'd encourage everybody, if you've got an innovation in the world of ageing, then please add it to their map. And they've also developed another living map of job innovators, which is a guide to some of the most exciting things that are happening in the world of job creation and tackling worklessness. So you've got everything there from Task Squad, which matches young people with short-term staffing vacancies, through to Trading Times, which matches the skills and availability of local people with the ad hoc resource needs of local businesses, which was developed particularly to help carers get back into the workforce. And a very interesting report published by New Dynamics of Ageing, which is about promoting digital participation through community hubs, a particular area that I think we need to look much more seriously at. And that explores how to meet older people's technology support needs by developing social communities and reducing isolation. In fact, I could probably, we have a new click guide to research on older people, digital inclusion and access to the internet, and probably I can crystallise 40 of the 70 reports saying what we need is community hubs, ways to support people to use the internet. So, good. And one that I put in here particularly, Stu, because it's Glasgow.
Thank you.
And this is Across the Divide, which is a new Carnegie UK Trust report on tackling digital exclusion in Glasgow. And once again, I wholeheartedly agree with the recommendations on funding and the need for collaboration. Because I think we've now answered in so many different reports the key barriers for people getting online. Do these vary by demographic group? Yes. What's the most effective solutions for increasing digital participation? And how can other towns, cities and communities learn from the challenges and solutions in Glasgow and the other 70 reports that have been written about this very key area? Lots of learning. And I was excited this weekend to find out about Behind the Headlines. Now, this is really fascinating. Set up by Muir Gray, and it provides an unbiased and evidence-based analysis of health stories. And I was looking at it particularly in the context, for example, of what's the reality about does social isolation and loneliness contribute to sort of higher death rates. It's really worth reading. So follow at NHS News UK to find out the science behind the news.
Big fan of Muir Gray. Also follow Ben Goldacre as well. Similarly, I watched a very good TED Talk that he did, I think it was last year actually, and he was talking about the number of clinical studies that had not been published, negative clinical studies that had not been published, and what a big problem that was. And so people going in to do a clinical study of something and they discover that a drug doesn't work, but actually that work had already been done 20 years ago. It's just that the negative report hadn't been studied. It's a waste of resources, and he calculated that probably 100,000 Americans have died because of negative clinical studies not being published. It was shocking.
That is fascinating, because I was talking to Muir Gray online about this on Saturday, and he was saying that often the exaggerations come from the scientists more than they do the journalists. And there we have sort of something about fear of failure, and how everybody, and when you've got so many researchers fighting for funds, it's quite difficult to admit your research study hasn't worked and hasn't been as effective as you would have hoped. Interesting ethical issue, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I am concerned about the gap which exists between what is known from research and what is being done to apply it. So I'm delighted to see Martin Webber at mgoat73 is addressing this in the innovative Connecting People study, which is exploring how social interventions can help to meet the needs of people with mental health problems, and that's actually looking at how you develop community capital. And finally, Wonkcoms. I could not resist adding this in, because and this was a real masterclass in communications, because it was a seminar discussing how think tanks can adapt to an ever-increasing communications environment. And of course, it is a big challenge for organisations to ensure that their ideas have an impact despite stiff competition and scarce resources in an increasingly digital future. So I'd like to say thanks to at ODI Development and Will Yeats for the excellent storify of the event, and a great quote. Audience ears are fixed on the speakers, but their eyes are glued to their smartphones.
That's so true.
So worth reading this. There's a lot more very good quotes in that storify.
That is so true. That's either the number of people who are at an event and the speakers are boring, so they're sitting with their phones, listening to the Twitter side chat that's going on, or as I tend to do actually, I'm sitting Googling the things that they're saying to make sure that they're true, or to make sure that they're backed up, or there's a study based on these things.
So I know you have had a busy and exciting few months. So what's going on in the world of Mindings? Now, good to see that you attended the launch of the electronic At Whose Shoes Toolkit, which at the Think Local Act Personal Making It Real birthday celebrations, and some lovely photos from there.
Yes, I was tweeting out photographs from there. I at least got the cutting of the cake and lots of people sitting around Jill's table.
Sorry, I haven't received my slice of the cake yet.
Oh,
is it in your bag, Stu?
Eek. Well, if I didn't eat it, then I'll blame my daughter. Maybe she found it in my backpack or something. No, it was good. It was a good event. Big shout out to Jill Phillips. Thank you for inviting me along to that from Whose Shoes, and of course the TLAP team, Jamie Lewis and Shahana Ramson, who've made me most welcome there. It was the first anniversary of the Making It Real last week. Clinton Farquharson and Mira Griffiths did a terrific job presenting some really interesting Making It Real case studies, and it was nice to bump into some people that I know there giving it some support. James Lampert from Kent County Council, Andrea Sutcliffe, who's been on our show, from Social Care Institute for Excellence, Laura Robinson from National Voices, who is the smiliest person in the world, certainly in the world of social care, and Vinesh Kumar from the Centre of Welfare for Reform. So it's good to see a lot of people there going along and cheering along Jill in Whose Shoes. Fantastic reception for the electronic version of the Whose Shoes game. Gosh, what's been happening in Mindings? That would take a whole show. But all good. But the highlights, including some interesting learnings, is I think just a few days before we recorded the last show, we'd won this competition. So quick recap on that. An organisation called Improvement East, which is a service delivery organisation that overarches like 11 East of England local authorities. So going from Central Bedfordshire and Cambridge to Surrey to Essex, Southend, Thurrock, big part of East. It's like a 6 million population area of East of England. And they wanted new innovation to tackle social isolation. The emphasis on new innovation. They didn't go to the usual suspects. They wanted to see some new innovation. And in order to attract that, they knew they were going to have to go to some small businesses, some SMEs. So they put together a nice package. There's £100,000 worth of funding, which would go in towards helping these companies develop their businesses. And Mindings won that. And so a big part of that was that...
really exciting news.
Oh my goodness.
That,
well, made my Christmas.
Delighted.
Yeah. So that's funding, a little bit of money for us, but mostly building more services, scaling what we're doing. We've built some new features. We've built an iPad app. So we're actually building the business with that money. We're just a couple of weeks away from doing our first installation at a sheltered housing scheme up in Central Bedfordshire. And of course, I know how much you like to see things being measured and evaluated to see some real outcomes. So I'm really pleased to say that we've just recently, and quite rightly so, an organisation called Health Enterprise East are going to be doing the evaluation. Now, they're a company who specialise in the measurement and evaluation of telecare products and services. So we'll be getting some really good and strong qualitative and quantitative data.
That'll be really
out from
interesting.
That. Really to see that Mindings is making an impact. So hopefully at some time in the summer we'll have some anecdotal information, but towards the end of the year we'll actually have some solid facts, hopefully demonstrating that Mindings really works and provides a benefit for people. An interesting one was that we met up with the Government Behavioural Insights team, who are known as the Nudge Unit. They were in the news the other week because they've been privatised. They've got some new wellbeing measurements that will be coming out in July. And basically, I think it's really going to shake up a lot of telecare, because what they were telling us was that if you have a telecare service, it's simply no longer going to be good enough if this service, if all it does is tells you that the person has a pulse and they haven't fallen over in a week. They want to see some really good wellbeing outcomes from that telecare service, which and they have indicated that what we are doing ticks all the boxes.
Excellent.
So really pleased about that. It's nice to have them on board, and they're going to be contributing to the Health Enterprise System evaluation as well. So it's nice to get some support. We've got some.
How many units will be evaluated? I mean, how many places is it being installed in?
There's going to be about 50, and it's going to be across a variety of settings, from sheltered housing schemes to care homes to some people actually in their homes who are living quite remotely in rural communities. So it's across a variety of settings. And amongst many other people we've been meeting, I was at last able to meet with Anna Goodman from the Campaign to End Loneliness.
Ah,
I speak about them most weeks because I'm big fans of their work. So it was really nice to be able to meet them and for them to say very positive things about what we're doing as well. So
excellent.
that was fun. So yeah, we've been really busy. It's in terms of the business moving forward. That's very exciting. We've got an improved service coming along. We've also, all these things have led us to an investment consortia coming together. Can't speak much about that, but we've got a meeting next week with that's coming together. We're in touch and in discussions with several other local authorities out with Improvement East who are talking with us. And this is ironic. I've been asked to present at Science City York on the 8th of June, which is another event that's been organised by the Technology Strategy Board. I've done so many of their events. They asked me to write blog posts, all the rest of it. Do I get a penny of funding from them?
I was going to say, remind me, have you ever received
Never got a
any
penny.
funding from
Never
them?
so much as got a train fare out of them. But Stuart, you're a thought leader. Would you like to come along and
They not
present
even
at one
pay
of
your
our
train
events?
fares? That's outrageous.
I'm not for that.
Sorry, TSB, that's outrageous.
I will now be uninvited. But there you go. That's just ironic. Anyway, I'm happy at the moment. Busy.
Excellent news. It's really moving forward, isn't it?
This section of the programme is called Follow Friday because it's Friday when we release a show and also because people who use Twitter, of course, use hashtag FF to recommend people to their community. Before we start with our Follow Fridays, what is your social media tip of the week?
This may sound obvious, Stu, but if you are serious about using social media, you need a strategy. And having a hashtag for an event or a meeting does not equal a social media strategy. Tweeting out what people are saying is just broadcasting and actually is pretty boring. Organisations need to think about how they are going to respond to questions and engage in conversations if they're using Twitter. So many don't. And it's a wasted opportunity in terms of getting feedback for your service and crowdsourcing ideas about how you can improve what you're doing. And really, you see, with 500 million Twitter accounts, over 1 billion Facebook accounts, and an estimated 200 million more online users across the world by the end of 2013, social media, I think we can conclude, is changing the way we connect and engage. And the predictions are that Twitter is only going to get bigger. So I recommend the brilliant and very popular post, 7 Twitter mistakes we all have to make before we can call ourselves pros, at Hell Reynolds. Definitely worth a read.
Absolutely. We've all done them.
and it had me giggling. And I'd like to do a Follow Friday for at Dragon Misery for the excellent Dementia Challengers website, which is so lovingly nurtured by Lee Stribling and provides signposts to online resources which support people living with dementia and their carers.
Lee's doing great work. She's also lovely. She tweets me quite often with lots of encouraging thoughts.
You know, the co-production in action, Dementia Challengers website.
Absolutely.
And I'm less than clear about people who want to carry on developing more dementia websites, because we have got some really good quality ones, and I regard Dementia Challengers as being one of those.
Oh, absolutely. I'm meeting last week out in Surrey with an organisation wanting to do just the same. And as I said to you before the show, I said to them, you haven't heard of Dementia Challengers? They hadn't.
Clearly, they need a lesson in how to use Google, Stu, I may suggest.
Exactly. As I said in the meeting, you know, because they said these resources aren't available. I said, name any problem. Tell me now. I will Google it. I will put it on Twitter. I'll have you an answer in seconds. And frustrating.
Wow, people using it. Stunning. And finally, a Follow Friday for at RSS Get Stats, which gives numbers meaning and helps decode complexity. It's a 10-year project run by the Royal Statistical Society, and the information and analysis they're providing is absolutely fascinating. You know, I am not a statistics person, but I like the way that they're making sense of stats.
So, Shirley, what do we have coming up in the next few months?
Well, a bit like your last few months, this is going to be a very busy few months because I have accepted invitations to speak, chair and facilitate a number of events, starting with Balancing the Books, How Should Councils Tackle the Social Care Funding Gap? On the 14th of May, which is being run by the Local Government Association, and really interesting debate. You know, are popular services necessary to promote the well-being of all residents in local areas, or should councils cut them now in order to focus on efforts on those who need support with everyday living? I'm not going to give my arguments today, but
That'll be good.
Oh, yes. And Citizen 2013 on June the 13th, which promises to be a stimulating and provocative discussion about digital engagement and government services. And I am in good company with Alan Rosenbach, who's Special Policy Lead at Care Quality Commission, and the lovely Paul Hodgkin, Founder and Chief Executive of Patient Opinion, and the newly launched Care Opinion. Free to attend, but booking is required. And I've also received an invitation to contribute to the King's Fund International Congress on Telehealth and Telecare, taking place in July, which has a focus on innovation, integration and implementation. And interestingly, I'm contributing to a panel debate on the pros and cons of telehealth and telecare, chaired by Roy Lilly. And we come on directly after the keynote address by Jeremy Hunt, Secretary of State for Health. So that will be fun. And of course, in July, we are running the Innovative Care in the Digital Age event in collaboration with Kent County Council, which of course you are attending as an innovator.
Yes.
So further details will be published soon. And I just think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when you gather together care and health staff, volunteers, service users, carers, innovators, entrepreneurs, to explore how technology can really make a difference.
Yeah, kind of really forward thinking with their innovations. I've been to a couple of their events in the last month or so, and some great work going on there.
Interesting times ahead.
Very much so. So, thanks to our sponsors this week, one of whom is Sue Sibbald from Borderline Personality Disorder, Ermintrude 2, who is a very active campaigner supporting innovation in social care, Claire O.T., our favourite occupational therapist, Mike Clark, our favourite keeper of all the facts, who gives us lots of great referenced information, very importantly. Paul Bromford, that's Paul Taylor from Bromford Housing, who we have on the show next week.
We do indeed, yes.
We're big fans of Paul.
Yes.
And finally to FOL Limited, which is John Bolton from Glenrothes up there in Scotland. We are very grateful for your support, for sponsoring the show. And remember, you can follow me at Mindy Stew.
And you can follow me at Shirley Ayres.
Come visit us at disruptivesocialcare.com, where you will see the show posted, but sometimes we put up some additional posts there, and also on our Facebook page at facebook.com/disruptivesocialcare. Until next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.